We're going to go ahead and get checked in on our next segment. And it's a segment we started last year, and it went pretty well. So without further ado, this is our NFC East break.
It's the division breakdown of the NFC East.
Yeah, man. So if you guys do not remember, we have the world champions coming out of that NFC East, and that is Philadelphia Eagles. Man, they had 14-3 last year. And, man, they made it all the way to the Super Bowl, if you didn't already know that one. So a little bit of rundown of the 2024 season. They were 187.9 yards per game. That's 29th in the league. They averaged 179.3 rushing yards a game, which was good for second in the league, which is extremely surprising. Who the hell ran more than the damn Philadelphia Eagles did? I don't know who the hell did, but I thought that was kind of wild when I saw that because just how much was good. I only thought I could think of maybe the 49ers possibly or something maybe. I'm not sure, but either way, it was a pretty amazing season for them though. They were 27.2 points per 27.2 points for, which is seventh in the league, and 17.8 points against, which is good for second in the league. Philadelphia, man, they had some good offseason too. They ended up in their draft. They ended up picking Jahad Campbell out of Alabama, the linebacker, and their second round pick was Andrew Matuba. Excuse me, I butchered that one. Excuse me, Matuba out of Texas, and they picked up another defensive tackle. And if you look at their draft, they did not pick up one. They only picked up one offensive player out of here, except their tackles. So they didn't pick up any kind of wide receivers or anything like that because they got a pretty damn good offense going right now. Yep. Mr. G Mike, I know that's going to kill you and pain you to talk about these guys, but let's go ahead and get started with this, man. The Philadelphia Eagles. How do you like it now? What do you think they did last year compared to this year, and can they continue it again?
They can for sure. I mean, their offense is great. It sucks to say, but their offense is great, and it hasn't really changed up that much. Saquon's going to be Saquon. Jalen Hurts is a great game-managing quarterback, but he showed a lot during the playoffs and in the Super Bowl. He showed that he can stunt out there. A.J. Brown's still around. Devontae Smith is still around. The O-line is still probably top 10 in the league. Their defense is still great as well. They did lose some players, but they got some in return. Their drafting is always great for the last, 3-4 years.
Absolutely, yep.
Yeah, so to me, they can make a run at back-to-back, and especially in a little NFC weak conference. But their division, they got the Commanders in there, which the Commanders you saw last year, they were doing great. So they got some stuff there that can maybe kick them out of the playoffs. I would say maybe they get a first one bye week. I would see them getting the first seed. But other than that, man, their team hasn't really changed, and they just remain on the top of the NFC.
What about you, BC, man? We know that the Eagles obviously had a great defense and offense, and we were talking about Oklahoma City a couple minutes ago as well as defense and offense. If that correlates, then most of the time you end up getting championships. What do you see? Do you think that what they drafted a whole bunch of more defense again if they already didn't have a stout defense? What do you think the Eagles are heading the right direction, or are they being a little bit too weak, just not upping up on their offense?
I think that they did. I don't think that it was a problem that they didn't draft any, not that many offensive players. I think that they solidified positions that are proving to be more and more important as, we're finding out later on in the season. Like obviously getting a couple of defensive tackles, getting some offensive linemen as well. Like solidifying your trenches is such an underrated thing. And that was one of the things, if you could point to as a little bit of a weakness, they didn't quite have the push that they usually did with their offensive line from previous seasons. Obviously, losing Jason Kelce to retirement doesn't help with that. But they made some right moves by bringing in, Jahad Campbell on defense and middle linebacker / edge. I was really high on him in the draft. I thought the Bucs should have went for him when he was available at the time. But he's going to be a great fit, I think, next to Zach Bond and that defense. The fact that you can line him up in the middle, you can line him up on edge, really use him as a Swiss Army knife in the front seven. That's going to be, I think, a very underrated signing / draft move right there. And then obviously though too, obviously losing guys like Darius Slay, James Bradbury, everything, like losing some cornerback depth there hurts. But again, they found ways to still add depth at all of those positions in the draft and in free agency. So rich get richer.
Getting rid of the old and coming in with the new.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with what you're saying too. And and I just felt like Campbell was such a Eagles draft pick. Like that one, of course, he landed to them. He fell in the draft. Most people had him as one of the a top 10 pick in the last year's draft, and he just falls to the Eagles. And like you're saying, to the rich get richer. And like you were just talking about it too, Zach Bond had 151 tackles by himself, and now you're going to add another guy that could easily help him out and get some more tackles in there. It's going to be tough for anybody really to be able to stop those guys. And that offensive line they got drafted a couple of backups in this year's draft, but that offensive line is so stout and so meaty. It's just a bad offensive line, man. They're just a bunch of bad dudes that win in the trenches for you. It's pretty remarkable what the Eagles were able to do, considering that Jalen Hurts only passed for 2,903 yards and they won the Super Bowl. In an era where everybody is throwing, Eagles went old school, beat you up on defense, and ran the hell out of the ball. Jalen Hurts also, he didn't lose you any games, and that's a pretty important thing, I think, as well. Overall, he only had 5 interceptions. Granted, he only threw the ball not as much as most of the people, but only 5 interceptions. So it doesn't necessarily matter. He's only throwing 2,903 yards or whatever that was, Whenever you're not turning over the ball and you're just letting the clock keep on going because they're running the ball so much. And he's a threat as well. He's almost a running back. You almost have 2 running backs out there whenever you have Jalen Hurts run whatever option that he needs to run. So I think that it's I think it's pretty cool. I think it's pretty cool what the Eagles have done. I think they're pretty smart. I think that they are just keep on getting richer, like you were saying as well, man. I don't see any really weaknesses in their game going forward. Maybe that their wide receiver core is still really good. You got Devontae Smith and you got AJ Brown. I honestly thought Jahan Dotson was going to be a lot more of a factor whenever he got traded over there, but I mean he barely did anything out there, and they still were able to dominate and win. Just goes back to how impressive Saquon Barkley was, and if you need to remember, 2,005 rushing yards in the season. Yes. Hell of a season for Saquon Barkley. Yeah, it was an insane year for the Eagles and everything they were able to accomplish. You guys got anything else for the Eagles' outlook on the season?
Just what you were mentioning before. I mean, I'm looking at the 2024 postseason stats, and it's exactly what you said. They ran the ball and they focused on defense and not letting the other team run the ball. Yeah, the other teams they had 1,071 yards, passing yards in total, but when it comes to their rushing yards, they had 818, and their opponents only had 366 rushing yards against them. So they were just playing in the trenches for sure. They were playing old school football. Run the ball, and stop the run. Yep.
Yeah, it goes back to that old school mentality, man. It defense and run, and it works. And that still goes back to, it cracks me up. That was also going into that year too that we were talking about running backs are overrated. They're a dime a dozen. Anybody out there? Enter Saquon Barkley with his 2,005 yards, Ergo Derrick Henry last year, too, almost matching him as well. 2 guys almost going over 2,000 yards in the same season is just ridiculous. And the running backs were dead, apparently, So I just think they went back old school.
Yeah, and I mean, again, I thought I was going to say about it. Yeah, it might be a bit too early of a prediction to kind of throw out or whatever. I know we're going to probably save our predictions a little bit closer to the week, but again, they're my early favorites for the NFC for a reason.